Good afternoon, I'm Jeff Cook and this is Backyard Basics. It's finally warming up in Middle Georgia and things are finally starting to grow. So I thought I'd talk about a really timely topic, a couple timely topics for you guys here in Middle Georgia. But before I do that, I want to try something new. I'm going to repeat this twice on this show, so hopefully I get some feedback. I think there's a few people that watch the show, so I want to try and help get some new ideas, some new thoughts on what to do shows on. So I'm going to give you my email address. It's mac, M-A-C-K-I-V @uga.edu. Shoot me an email or give me a call at the office at 478-862-5496 and give me some ideas on what you want to know about, something you want to learn more about, something agriculture related, nature related, something you think I might know about. I may not know anything about it, I may not be able to help you out, but it may be something good that we can put out here. And if you're thinking about it and it's something that concerns you, it's probably something that concerns a lot of other people in our area, in the Middle of Georgia or the viewing area. So, give me a call, shoot me an email. I'll probably respond right to your email or your call, but then, that'll give me some ideas of some things to do on the show. So I got two topics I want to talk about on the show, and they're totally unrelated. One's onions, one's fruit. First thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start off with fruit. All of our fruit in Middle Georgia are starting to ripen, starting to get ready. Still a few of them are flowering. Strawberries have been flowering and becoming ripe for a while. But I was going to talk a little bit about fruit. Not trying to scare you about anything, but talk about a new pest we have in Georgia and really on the whole eastern coast. It's called the spotted wing Drosophila. Very long name, very fancy name, given to it by an entomologist. It's a fruit fly. Okay, so why are we worried about a fruit fly in agriculture in Georgia? Most of the time, fruit flies affect overly ripe fruit, or they get, they also call drain flies. They get in your drain after you've cut up a bunch of fruit and vegetables at your house. All of a sudden, you get these fruit flies showing up. Like I said, also called drain flies. They actually, I found out last year, most fruit flies can, and some of these insects like this, they can live in the moisture and the debris left in a mop, a household mop. They don't need much. They're small, they don't need much. But most fruit flies, like I said, they affect or infect or, lay eggs in and feed on overly ripe fruit. These fruit in the field that have, gone past their prime, nobody picks them, they stay there. They get a little bit of an injury, or they get really, really soft. These flies lay an egg, the larvae hatch out, they feed on in, they develop, and they exit the fruit, fall out, and then, turn into adults. The problem with this new fruit fly is that it actually can affect, lay eggs, and feed on underripe fruit that aren't ripe yet, before they get red or purple or, blue. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this fruit fly, what crops it affects, and how it might affect you in your garden. All right, as I said, this thing's called the spotted wing Drosophila. Drosophila is kind of hard to say. Some of the strawberry growers, we were at a meeting, and a lot of people are calling it the SWD, spotted wing Drosophila. One of the strawberry growers called it the spotted wing devil. He thought that was a lot easier to say than Drosophila. So, but like I said, it's spotted wing Drosophila, so it's called that. Entomologists are not the most creative people in the world. It's got spots on its wings. As you can see from this image, it's got a spot on either wing. When they hold their wings back over their body, you can see the two spots. If you can get close enough, like you can see in this image. That's one defining characteristic. There's a lot of other characteristics you can use to identify them. Sometimes the spots aren't present. It really takes a trained eye and a little bit of practice to look at it under a dissecting microscope and see the other subtle differences. The other thing that makes this fruit fly so different is that, like I said, it can lay eggs on underripe or fruit that's prior to ripening. So it's infecting fruit in the field. That's actually something that somebody might go out there and pick. You might go, if this is your garden, these are your blackberries, you actually might go out there, and pick this fruit thinking it's a perfect fruit. It's not overly ripe, it's not soft. You pick it, you bring it to the house, and you've got this insect in it. The reason it can do this is because the ovipositor, or the egg laying apparatus on the female, is like I refer to it like a saw blade. As you can see in this picture, it's serrated. It's got two toothed sides, and she actually will move it back and forth and actually cut a groove in the fruit. After she cuts a groove in the fruit, she'll lay eggs, she'll deposit eggs, and she'll hop around. You've seen flies, they hop around, they don't just sit in one place. She'll hop around on the fruit, and she'll deposit eggs on the fruit. You can see in this raspberry image, which we don't grow many raspberries around here, but you can see in the raspberry image, there's multiple, I think 4 or 5 eggs laid on this fruit. The eggs hatch out, they're laid right next to a slit in the fruit, and then they can bore right in, and they will feed all the way into the center of that fruit. Feed in there, develop. They come on out, they feed back out. They either emerge and pupate, or they will pupate right there in the fruit as it falls off and decays. The reason I chose this location, and this is a large garden, but it's a garden that's got a lot of fruit. They got plums, they've got muscadines or scuppernongs, they've got blackberries, and they've got blueberries. And just right here, within my sight, I can see, basically every fruit I just said is a fruit that this fruit fly will attack. I've told a lot of people about last year with the rains we've had, even with insecticide sprays, I only picked blackberries twice, and I've got about 50 blackberry plants. So, but we're here in a few blackberries planted, very young blackberries. You got some that are blooming, just blooming, some that actually have some small fruit on it, a few. Like I said, it's only a 2-year-old blackberry. But if any of y'all, I know all y'all have seen a blackberry, you've seen a strawberry, you've seen a raspberry. They all have cracks and crevices, very soft. Those are ideal places for this fruit fly to lay eggs. Get down in there and saw a little slit, lay their eggs. They also really, really, really love blueberries. They're giving guys in South Georgia, where all these blueberries are grown, they're giving them fits. But they also, muscadines, scuppernongs are a host. Plums, peaches, these are all hosts to this pest. That's one thing that makes it such a dangerous pest in our area, and like I said, all up the eastern coast. We have a lot of fruit production over here, and it's a real threat to what we've got going on. All right, I also wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about onions. I know they're not related to peaches, but we did just bring in our load of 4-H onions for our camp fundraiser, and I'd like to thank anybody who bought onions from a 4-H'er. All that money goes to help them go to camp, which is getting pretty expensive, so every little bit helps. But as we were over here at Mr. W.T. Williams, he was talking about and showing me some of his onions, so I thought it'd be a good place to show you. He planted some onions. He just harvested them. He's got them up under the shelter, letting them dry out before he clips the tops off and clips the roots. But I was going to talk a little bit about sweet onions. Some people have some questions, if you grow them. And then, like I said, I also say, thanks to Dry Branch Farms and David and Shirley Gerald down in Collins for helping us get some pretty good onions up here. I hope everybody enjoys them, and talk a little about storage. But real quick on Vidalias, or really any onions. Vidalias are a short day onion. There's a short day and there's a long day. Short day onions, basically what it is, just really basic, is you plant them in the fall, you let them grow all winter, they grow a top, and then in the spring when the day length starts changing, they'll stay a plant while the day length's short. As the day lengths start to get longer, they actually start to bulb. So a lot of people call me and they want to put fertilizer out in April on onions, and that's really a no-no for 2 reasons. The reason that Vidalia onions are sweet is because they're grown in sandy soil, which we have here in Taylor County, and they're grown with low sulfur fertilizers. Only sulfur put on a Vidalia onion is put on prior to planting in a complete fertilizer. So like your triple 10 rainbow that's got all your micronutrients, has sulfur in it. That's probably the only sulfur they get. Sulfur is what makes them pungent. Sulfur also leaches from sandy soil, so we don't have a lot of sulfur. You can grow a really sweet onion in Taylor County. Putting fertilizer on them late or sulfur on them late is just a recipe to make them spice, make them get hot, become pungent. If you do grow some hot onions, just another little tidbit. If you do grow some onions, they're a little bit hot. You can cut them up, soak them in ice water. That ice water will take a little bit of that heat out, a little bit of that bite out. But there's a couple things that people call me about all the time on onions, and I tell them that all the time, no, you don't have to do it. You don't ever have to pull the dirt away from an onion to let it bulb up. I don't care how deep you plant it, you don't have to do that. The onion bulb is strong enough to do that itself, push dirt out of the way. Actually, pulling dirt away, pushing dirt too, you could probably do more damage to that plant and cause openings where different diseases could get in. So, in southeast Georgia, when I used to work with onion guys, sometimes we would plow them ahead of a cold, thinking we were going to help keep them warmer, and we would actually see more disease come in after we plowed. So you don't have to move the dirt away from them, and you, like I said, if you plant them in the spring, or if you plant them in late winter, you're going to have a small onion. If you don't fertilize them along throughout the winter, if you neglect them like I do, because I forget about them, hunting season, Christmas, you forget about your garden in the wintertime, you don't fertilize them through the winter, and you don't make that big top on there, you're going to have a small onion. Just an example, this onion right here, you see it's pretty good top. You got 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, you got a bunch of leaves, you got a pretty good sized onion. This onion right here, a lot smaller onion, 4 leaves. So you grow a lot of leaves, try and grow a lot of leaves, a lot of big plant during the winter, and then when that onion decides it's time to bulb because the day length changes, it's not bulbing because of the fertilizer you put on it in April. It's bulbing because of what's up here. So you feed it all winter, grow this, and then this starts turning yellow because it's feeding this bulb, making this bulb bigger. So just some helpful hints about onions. You can, one more thing, when you harvest them, the growers in South Georgia will actually, especially if it's not going to rain, they'll dig them, let them lay out in the field for a couple of days, day or so, let them dry under the sun. It's kind of like a free oven. Let them dry, let that outer skin kind of harden up. Under a shelter's fine, especially if there's ever chances of rain or you got chances of dew, cooler weather. This is fine too. And then storage, you can store them in a cool, dry place. If you got a crawl space, if you got an extra fridge, that bottom drawer is a great place for them. And then one way I like to do it, just because it's easy to use them this way, and they don't, if you got one bad one, it doesn't spoil the whole bag of them, is take an old pair of pantyhose. Don't take a new one because your wife or somebody might get mad. Take an old pair of pantyhose, throw an onion down in the foot, tie a knot, throw another one down, tie a knot, throw another one, tie a knot. You can hang those up as you want one. You can cut below the knot. All your onions are still held. They're separated. They got airflow, and you got your onion. So a few quick little onion tidbits. And like I said, once again, thank you to all the people who bought onions from our 4-H'ers. You made a bunch of kids happy. All right, we talked about our spotted wing Drosophila fruit fly. Now here's the trap. This is a fancy trap, as you can tell. This looks like it's I think it's a solo cup with a lid. There are also some you can buy. You can go, you can go buy fancy. You can go online and buy some. I've seen some made out of old spice jars with a hole in the top. Put a string on it. Put it on a little post. The biggest thing is you want to have a few holes drilled in around the top. Those are actually holes to let the fruit flies get in. And a good thing if you get these, of course, you may or may not be doing this, but this is the way I use it. This side has no holes in it. That's so when I get a bunch of stuff trapped in a week, I can stir it up, pour it out, and they're not falling out these holes all over the ground and losing what I'm trying to collect. Since I'm collecting mine for a kid's graduate research, I want to make sure I don't lose anything for them. But then what you can do, you can use one of 2 baits. The bait that I'm using is a little bit of yeast, a little bit of sugar, some soap, and water. The yeast and the sugar are there to attract the fruit fly. Has a very pungent odor, especially when it's sat in the back of your truck. And once you mix it up, sits in the back of your truck for a day. The back of your truck smells like you've been brewing beer, and people start questioning you. But that's what attracts the fruit fly, and then the soap in it is there just to break the surface tension, so that when the flies land on the water, get close to it, they fall in rather than sitting on top of it because of the surface tension. Now I know that not many people can go out and go buy yeast and sugar and start using it to catch fruit flies. So what you can do is you can also take apple cider vinegar. It's not quite as good at attracting them. Apple cider vinegar in the bottom of a jar or your trap. Put it down there. Leave it a week or so. See what you got. You'll have all kinds of interesting little bugs. I've been catching beetles, wasps, a lot of different kinds of fruit flies. But like I said, if you want to know if you got them, that's the best. That's the only way you'll know is if you trap some, because the pictures I showed earlier, those were taken by somebody that's been studying them for 5, 6, 7 years. So they got better cameras. They can get a lot closer to them than I can. I've still not seen one actually on a fruit like the pictures show. Those pictures were all taken by Hannah Barak, who's a researcher up at NC State, and she's actually, I guess, probably the authority in the southeast on these fruit flies. And she heads up a big group of people in the southeast trying to figure out what's the best thing to do, what's the best control of their biology in the southeast and things like that. So here's a trap, easy to make, a little wire through the top. You can hang it in a bush. You can hang it on a stake. You can make something special for it to hang on, but you can put it in your muscadines, blueberry patch, blackberries. Like I said, bring them on in. We'll get them identified. You can't know how to kill the pest if you don't know what it is. So we gotta know what we got first before we try and do anything. So I'm not going to talk about any kind of chemical controls or organic type of controls. But if you do bring them into the office, either in Taylor County or Peach County, we'll get them identified, and then we'll go over some options for you there. All right, so that's the show for this month. Hopefully you learned a little bit about this new pest we've got in here, well, a fairly new pest that we've got in here, and a little bit about the onions that are, if they're in your garden right now, they're getting ready, the tops are falling over, which means they're ready to be pulled up. Or you learned a little bit about the onions that you bought from our 4-H group. Like I said, I want to try something new. I want you guys to call me, contact me, let me know what's on your mind, what you want to learn about, so that I can start tailoring my shows to what the folks that are watching want to see. So contact me at either 478-862-5496, or you can email me at mackiv, MACKIV @uga.edu. And once again, this is Backyard Basics, where we're filmed here in your backyard.